So students, come to question number 11. Question 11 is given, how does steroid hormones influence the cellular activities? And we know that there are many types of hormones, but these proteinaceous hormones and steroid type hormones are predominant. Okay, so proteinaceous hormones made up of amino acids, okay, and these steroid hormones are made up of fatty acids. So the option 1 is changing the permeability of the cell membrane. Option 2 is binding to the DNA and forming a gene hormone complex. Option 3 is activating cyclic AMP located on the cell membrane. Option 4 is using aquaporin channels as a second messenger. So among these four options, option 2 will be true, because steroid hormones directly enter into the cell and bind to the intracellular receptor present on the nucleus to form the hormone receptor complex, and then it interacts with the genome for the synthesis of many proteins or many characters. So in the NCERT, the question is given from the hormone control and coordination, the last chapter of human physiology of 11th class of NCERT. So in this example, the given is estrogen. Estrogen is a steroid type of hormone. When estrogen interact with the target cell, we know that the cell membrane is made up of lipid bilayer membrane, okay, phospholipid bilayers. So phospholipid bilayer means these cell membrane is will be loving to only those chemical molecules are made up of these lipid molecules, okay. So steroid is a type of lipid molecule, is a source of fatty acids, and the plasma membrane is also made up of phospholipid bilayers. So lipid it becomes lipophilic, lipid loving. So all these hormones made up of steroids or fatty acid derivatives, they can directly enter into the plasma membrane. They do not need any kind of receptors or any kind of cytoplasmic or cell surface receptors. Without involving in a cell surface receptor interaction, they can directly enter into the lipid bilayer membrane. So in this example, the green color is estrogen is entering into the plasma membrane, and it can directly enter. So it can also enter into the nuclear pore, and it reaches the genome or the DNA, and it interacts with the receptor hormone complex, and then it activates its particular genes, okay. So what will happen for an hormone which is made up of proteinaceous, like follicle stimulating hormone or FSH? When follicle stimulating hormone reaches its target cells, it is made up of, follicle stimulating hormone is made up of proteins, okay. So proteins are not lipophilic. Proteins cannot directly enter into the lipid bilayer membrane, so they must have to interact with the cell surface receptor. So that's why the blue color is the hormone and the red color receptors are there. When it matches its receptor, then only the cell can able to access these hormones. Then what happens? Response 1 given. So as quick as the hormone interacts with its receptor, then generation of a secondary messenger, that is cyclic AMP or calcium divalent cation. Then biochemical responses taking place, then physiology response like ovarian growth. So what we conclude, if the hormone will be proteinaceous, it needs the cell surface receptors. If the hormone is steroid, it do not need any kind of receptors, it can directly interact with the genome. This is direct NCERT based questions. Come to question number 12. Question number 12. Select the correct sequence for the transport of sperm cells in male reproductive system. So in 12th, the human physiology, human reproduction, the question is directly asked. If we will remember just the diagram, then we can solve these questions. What are different four options? Testis, then epididymis, then vas efferentia, then reed testis, then inguinal canal, then urethra. Then seminiferous tubules, reed testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, urethra, urethral meatus. Option 3 is seminiferous tubules, vasa efferentia, epididymis, inguinal canal, urethra. Option 4 is testis, epididymis, vasa efferentia, vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, inguinal canal, urethra and urethral meatus. So first we have to know that to solve this question, we have to look this diagram. This is the TS of testis. Testis is the primary sex organ of human male. So inside that testis, the germinal epithelial cells are there. and the seminiferous tubules or straight tubules are present in the testis. They are able to synthesizing these sperm cells. Then these cells are connected to epididymis, which is a temporary storage, through the help of efferent ducts or vasa efferentia. So what we conclude from the inner line, there is the reed testis, then seminiferous tubules, then these vasa efferentia. Okay, so from seminiferous tubules, these germinal epithelial cells are synthesized. Then they are coming to the reed testis, which is the central part, and from the reed testis, all these sperm cells are travelled to the epididymis through the help of numerous channels like structures called vasa efferentia, and from the epididymis it reaches the vas deferens or ductus deferens. So we just have to remember this carefully, that seminiferous tubules are germinal epithelium cells are there. They are synthesizing sperm cells, and the synthesized sperm cells are reached the reed testis, and from reed testis all the sperm cells are going to epididymis through the vasa efferentia. Again we have the diagram in NCERT. Again there is the seminiferous tubules, then reed testis, then vasa efferentia, then epididymis, then vas deferens. Vas deferens is connected to with the help of seminal vesicles. It connected to with the help of prostates, then bulbousal gland, then it's connected to penile urethra, then it's going to outside. So which option will be true? Option 2 will be true. Okay, so in option 2 we have seminiferous tubules, then reed testis, then vasa efferentia, then epididymis, then vas deferens, then ejaculatory duct, then urethra, then urethral meatus. Through the urethral meatus, as you know that the male sperm cells ejection and urine both have the common pathway, that is called penile urethra. So now come to question number 13. Match the hominids with their correct brain size. In column 1 we have Homo habilis, Homo neanderthalis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and in column 2 we have the cranial capacity in the cubic centimeters. Option 1 is 900, option 2 is 1350 cubic, option 3 is 650 to 800 cc, then option 4 is 1400 cc. So to solve these questions, we have to again look to this diagram, that during human evolution actually what was happened. Okay, in x-axis we have millions of years ago, that is 43210, and in y-axis we have the cranial capacity, the increasing of cranial capacity. So if we will go to Australopithecus, that is coming below the 500 cc. If we will go to Homo habilis, then it nearly reached the 500 cubic centimeter, and come to Homo erectus, which is just below the 100 cc, that means it reaches closely to the 900 cc of cubic centimeters. Then come to Homo neanderthalis. Homo neanderthalis reaches to around more than 100 cc, that is, and present human being, that is close to 1400 cc. Okay, so for solving these questions, here Homo habilis is given 650 to 800, Homo erectus is closely related to 900 cc. Okay, because the Homo erectus, which matches the graph on the y-axis, is below the 100 cc, 1000 cc, that means it is reaches to 900 cc. Then Homo neanderthalis, which is close to 1400 cc, and Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalis, they are quite close to each other. Okay, so students, remember that, because Homo sapiens is a later one and Homo neanderthalis is the earlier one, so we always have to remember the Homo neanderthalis have a more cranial capacity than the current Homo sapiens. This is quite mysterious, but you have to, the key point is Homo neanderthalis is more cranial capacity than the Homo sapiens. So this is easy questions. Then come to question number 14. Variations caused by mutations as proposed by Hugo de Vries are random and directional, random and directionless, small and directional, small and directionless. So to solve these questions, we have to know who is Hugo de Vries. Hugo de Vries is the scientist given the idea about mutation theory. Darwin, which is given the idea about natural selection. Okay, both of these scientists having trying to explain the natural selection, According to Hugo de Vries, mutations are random and directionless. So what is a mutation? So mutation, that means any kind of change to the genome. Okay, so a single step mutation can change to a large variations. So when the single step mutation takes place in any of the genome, it can lead to a large scale of variation through the generation by generations. So what is the difference between de Vries theory and Darwin's theory? De Vries was given evolution resulted from mutation. Darwin said evolution results from variations. And Hugo de Vries says evolution was sudden, Darwin says it was gradual. So according to Hugo de Vries, mutations are random and directionless, and according to Darwin, variations are small and directional. So these are differences. Students have to remember that what is the basic features given by the scientists. So among these 4 options, option 2 will be true, random and directionless, which is given by Hugo de Vries, the mutation theory. Then come to due to question number 14, that is due to the increasing of airborne allergens and pollutants, many people in urban areas are suffering from respiratory disorders causing wheezing. Okay, and this question is from chapter respiration, human respiration. So the question is given, in urban areas the respiratory disorder causing of wheezing is due to what? Option 1 is benign growth on the mucous lining of nasal cavity. Option 2, inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. Option 3 is proliferation of fibrous tissue and damage of the alveolar walls. Option 4, reduction in the secretion of the surfactants by pneumocytes. Okay, so in NCERT there are different disorders are given, like asthma. Asthma is the correct option because this is option 2 is true. Asthma is the difficulty in breathing causing wheezing due to inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. It can be due to increasing in airborne allergens and pollutants. Asthma is an allergenic condition. Many people in urban areas are suffering from these respiratory disorders. So we will discuss what are the facts about other 3 options. So when mucosal lining on the nasal cavity takes place, this is maybe due to the chronic sinusitis. This option will be not true. So what is the proliferation of fibrous tissue and damage to the alveolar walls due to occupational respiratory disorder? So students have to clearly go through this chapter respiration, because this is directly asking from the question disorders, disease or disorder with respirations. Okay, so option 2 will be true. Then come to question number 15. Select the incorrect statement. Option 1 is male fruit fly is heterogametic. Option 2 is in male grasshoppers 50% of the sperms have no sex hormones. Option 3 is in domestical fowls sex of progeny depends on the type of sperms rather than the egg. And option 4 is human males have one of their sex chromosomes much shorter than the other. Okay, so this question is from sex determination, that is from genetics. So to solve these questions, we have to first know the basis of sex determination. In case of humans, the male is heterogametic, that is XY, and in female that is homogametic XX. X is a metacentric chromosome, whereas Y is a acrocentric chromosome. So Y chromosome is shorter chromosome. And in case of insects, or in case of insects, the male is XY and the female is XX. And in case of birds, the reverse is takes place. Males are homogametic, that is ZZ mode of chromosomes, and in females that is ZW. Okay, so in birds, males are homogametic and females are heterogametic. So how to conclude our answers from these options? Male fruit fly is heterogametic. Fruit fly, Drosophila is an insect. So male is always be heterogametic, because we see that the male Drosophila having XY chromosome. Okay. So come to option 2. Option 2 is given, in male grasshopper 50% of the sperms have no sex chromosomes. Okay. So in case of grasshoppers and in case of ants, they are prescribing the eusociality. Okay, that means that we discussed as in case of the formation of the zygotes or formation of the haploid drones. In case of honeybees, we are finding that drones and workers and queens. So these drones are haploids, okay, and they do not have any kind of sex chromosomes. So come to option 4. Human males having one of their sex chromosome much shorter than the other, because Y chromosome is acrocentric chromosome which is shorter than the metacentric X chromosome. What is the option 3? Why it is incorrect? In domestical fowls, sex of the progeny depends on the type of sperms rather than the egg. Okay, that's why the changes is expressed, because what we learned in case of domestical fowls or birds, the males are homogamitic. Okay, and what the question is given, in domestical fowls, sex of the progeny depends on the type of sperms. So can we detect the sperm cells? Because sperm cells are homogamitic, we cannot detect the sex. But the females are heterogrammatic, Z and W. If the difference is the W chromosome, okay. So presence of the W chromosome indicates male in case of domestical fowls. That's why option 3 is incorrect. Option 3, the option is given in the reversed form. Okay. So this is about question number 10 to question number 15. So in the description, in birds, the female is heterogrammatic, found in thus the sex of the progeny depends upon the types of eggs rather than the types of sperms. Okay, that's why sperms is given A plus Z, which is 100%, and eggs are detrimental. Eggs can be determined whether it is going to a male or it is going to a female.